Chief, we, found a body. My radio crackled to life. I let out a long, tired sigh. This was the last thing we needed right now. Offer, who is it? We don't know. I think you should see this. I heard hesitation in the voice on the other end. That wasn't a good sign. This wasn't just a routine mess-up. I shot a glance at Johan. He was already pulling on his gloves, his jaw set. We both knew what this meant. I felt a flash of irritation, but I kept it in check. The last thing we needed was to lose our heads right now. Coming with you, Johan muttered, his voice as calm as always. He didn't need to say anything else. We had been through too much together, and we didn't need to speak to understand what was coming. We made our way through the ship's narrow corridors, heading toward the cargo hold. The walls hummed with the noise of the ship's engines, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something was always wrong, but today it felt different. Darker. We need to contact the captain, I said, tapping in the comms. The captain was a smart woman, but even she couldn't ignore what had happened every time before. I keyed the comm again. Captain, we've got a situation. I'm on my way to the cargo hold. Understood, Chief. Keep me posted. We reached the cargo hold, and the security team was gathered by the far side, standing stock still. Like statues. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with something I couldn't quite place. Fear, maybe? No one was speaking. I shot a glance at Johan, and he nodded. Something was off about this whole situation. There was more here than just a random death. I yelled across the room. You idiots figured out who got killed yet? They didn't answer. I wasn't surprised. Instead, I walked toward them, pushing one aside. Johan followed me, staying close. We passed the massive blue crates, the hum of machinery vibrating beneath our boots. Then we saw it. The body. It wasn't just another dead crew member. It wasn't the result of a simple accident or a fight gone wrong. No, this was something else entirely. This was something old, something we'd all feared at one point or another. I froze for a moment, my stomach sinking. Then I glanced at Johan, and we exchanged a knowing look. Yep, we're dead, I muttered, scratching the scales on my neck. The rookies didn't understand. They looked at me, at Johan, like we were the ones who'd lost our minds. But they didn't know the stories. They hadn't lived through the things we had. I keyed the captain again. Captain, yeah, no idea yet, but the beast is here. You and I both know locking us in here won't stop it. The protocol is stupid. I'll keep you updated. There was a pause on the other end. She knew what I was saying, even without the details. We both knew. The Starlight Beast was here, and when it came, it didn't just kill. It left its mark. It was my first big run. Years ago, I was still young, eager, working on the George Hamlin. I was fresh out of training, full of fire and ready to take on the universe. We were carrying precious cargo, heading through uncharted space. Everything was normal. That's when the first wave hit. I didn't know what it was at first. None of us did. The lights flickered, the ship shook, and the sensors went wild. We didn't even see it coming. All we heard was the screams. The captain had ordered everyone to go to their stations, and that's when it happened. The first victim. I remember walking down the hallway, hearing someone yell my name. I turned the corner just in time to see it. The body. Mummified. Eyes wide open in terror. Drained of everything. Just like the stories. It was real. The stories weren't stories anymore. That's when the rumors stopped being just that. That's when the reality of the beast came crashing in. I thought about that moment now, standing in front of the same thing that had haunted my nightmares for years. Chief. I snapped out of it, realizing I'd been lost in thought. Grayley, the Belox kid, was shaking in the corner. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't just scared, he was terrified. What is that thing? He whispered, his voice trembling. I didn't have the energy to reassure him. It's the beast, kid. You don't need to know much more than that. Johan stepped up, his face hardening. Get it together, Grelly. You're not the only one who's scared. Grelly's eyes flickered to Johan, and for the first time there was a flicker of recognition in his face. Johan's calmness, his steely gaze. It was something Grelly had never seen before. Johan wasn't just another guy trying to survive. He was survival. The air in the cargo hold felt thicker now, like the temperature had dropped suddenly. The cold seeped into my bones. But I couldn't afford to freeze up. None of us could. The second encounter, the one that changed everything. The second ship that came back, well, didn't really come back. The survivor was found on the edge of the Callan orbital station, shaking like a leaf. He kept saying the same thing, over and over. The beast is coming. His words were almost a warning, a cry for help, though no one knew how to help him. He couldn't speak anymore, just a shell of a man, mind broken. When they found him, there was nothing left but a terrified catatonic body. We tried to get answers. We had to. What did he see? How did he survive? But all he could say was the same thing. The beast. The Starlight Beast. This wasn't just a creature. It was an executioner. And it wasn't interested in us. It wasn't interested in anything except hunting. The rumors about the beast changed after that. Some said it was cursed. Others said it was a creature from another dimension, trapped in our space by the expanding net of interstellar travel. But no one really cared about the theories. The truth was simple. It hunted. And it would kill you if you didn't keep the light on. I looked around the cargo hold at the remaining crew, all of us standing in the face of certain death. The rookies were still confused. Fear was thick in the air, but Johan and I were hardened. We knew what was coming. "What do we do now?" Grenny asked, his voice barely audible. I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. We fight. We survive. We keep the light on, and if we're lucky, we make it through the night. Johan stepped forward, pulling out his pack of cigarettes. But we're not just fighting the beast. We're fighting the darkness. If you let it get to you, you're already dead. He lit his cigarette, the glow briefly illuminating his face. For a moment, I saw the weight of everything he'd been through, the years of surviving, the countless dangers we'd faced, and I realized there was no one else I'd rather have by my side. The lights flickered, and then everything went dark. The growl started low, distant, but it was there. The thing was close. I grabbed a flare from my belt and lit it, the green light cutting through the shadows, revealing nothing. But I knew. I could feel it. It was here. Johan signaled the others and we all started moving, lighting up the hallways with everything we had. But it wasn't enough. The beast knew how to hunt in the dark. It didn't need the lights. It could see without them, track without them. The first scream cut through the air, and we knew someone was gone. The beast had taken someone. "Stay together," I shouted, but my voice was barely heard over the chaos. The ship trembled, and I knew what was coming. The lights were going out one by one, and each one that flickered off took a piece of us with it. We ran toward the bridge, but I knew there was no way we were getting there without a fight. We made it to the mess hall, all of us breathing heavy. We were down to half our number. Johan lit another cigarette, blowing out the smoke in a steady stream. I could see his jaw working, thinking. "We can't let it pick us off one by one," he said. "We fight, room by room." The captain stood up, motioning for us to gather around. "We'll split into pairs, we move as one." And just like that, the battle began. The lights flickered again, and we were plunged into darkness. But I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt a quiet resolve. By the time we reached the bridge, the few of us left were barely holding on. The ship was shaking from the strain, and the beast was still hunting us. But we wouldn't give in. Not now. Not after everything we'd survived. I turned to Johan, his face grim in the flickering light. "Let's finish this." Johan's eyes met mine, and for a moment I could see everything we'd been through in those eyes, and I knew we were going to make sure the beast never took another ship again. We weren't going down without a fight. The ship groaned beneath us, as if it knew the beast was coming for it. The lights flickered once more, plunging us into near-total darkness. For a moment, all we could hear was the pounding of our hearts, the quiet, shallow breaths of the crew, and the relentless hum of the engines. But there was something else now. The low growl, vibrating through the walls. The beast was close. It was closer than ever. I gripped my flare tightly, the weight of it grounding me in the chaos around us. Every breath felt like it could be my last. But I didn't have time to think about that now. I had a job to do. "Stay with the lights," I ordered, my voice strained but firm. "Light every damn hallway, every corner. It won't kill us if we're in the light." Johan was already moving ahead, leading the way, flare in one hand, gun in the other. Grelly followed close behind, his face still pale but his steps more steady now. The captain had ordered us to move toward the bridge, and as much as I hated the idea of splitting up, it was our only chance. We had to find the source of the beast's power, or we were all dead. We reached the first junction, and that's when we saw it. There, in the dark, its shape barely visible, was the beast. It was more terrifying than I'd ever imagined. It loomed in the shadows, its massive body twisting and writhing like something from a nightmare. The eyes on the tentacles at the tips of its hair were fixed on us. It wasn't just watching us, it was studying us, figuring out how to kill us. It was waiting for one of us to falter, waiting for us to lose the light. I raised my flare, the green light cutting through the darkness, illuminating the beast's gnarled form. It hissed, a low, eerie sound that rattled my bones. Its face, or what passed for one, was a terrifying mix of fangs and sharp insectoid needles. Its claws, thick and muscled, extended as it moved forward, slashing through the air like it was preparing to strike. "Shoot it!" I shouted, my heart racing. Johann didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger, and the shot rang out, loud and deafening in the silence. But the beast wasn't fazed. It vanished, just like the first time it had been seen, without moving a limb. One moment it was there, and the next, it was gone. "Damn it," I cursed, looking around frantically. "It can't be gone. It's still here." We didn't have time to wonder. The ship trembled again, and we heard the sound of something heavy moving through the walls. The beast had found another way in. We ran, instinct kicking in, and I led the charge. We had no choice but to move toward the bridge, but the beast was fast. It was always fast. The moment we took a wrong step, we knew it would pounce. Then, out of nowhere, the lights came back on. Full power. A flood of blinding light filled the hallways, and for the first time in hours, I felt a shred of hope. It wasn't the beast controlling the power after all. It was us. "The bridge," I muttered, moving faster. We made it to the bridge level, and there, standing in the control room, was the captain. She was holding a gun in one hand and a flare in the other, her back to the massive windows overlooking space. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She was ready to die fighting, just like the rest of us. "Get in here," she yelled, motioning for us to hurry. "We can't hold the lights for much longer, but we have one chance to finish this." We didn't hesitate. We crowded into the room, all of us sticking close to the lights, our flares crackling in the dark. And then it happened. With a roar that echoed through the hull, the beast appeared. But this time, it wasn't vanishing. It was charging. It leapt toward us, its claws reaching out, but before it could reach the group, the captain fired. The shot didn't hit its head. The beast's face was too much of a blur of movement. But it did hit its chest. The creature screeched in pain, recoiling for the briefest second. And that was all we needed. I raised my flare higher, and Johann threw everything he had into his gun, aiming at the thing's limbs. Grayli, who had been cowering, finally found the courage to take aim, his flare lighting up his face as he fired toward the beast's chest. And then, something extraordinary happened. The beast screamed, a guttural, inhuman wail that made my skin crawl. It was too much. It couldn't take the light, and it couldn't take the pain. Slowly, agonizingly, it started to dissipate, vanishing as the energy drained from it. It was like a storm fading away, the dark clouds retreating, leaving only a haze of heat and the faint remnants of its body. We watched in silence, unsure if it was real or if we were just imagining it. Then, finally, the beast was gone. For the first time in hours, the ship was silent. The air felt lighter. We'd done it. But it wasn't without a price. The beast was dead, yes, but we had lost some along the way. The rookies who'd panicked, the crew members who hadn't been fast enough. They were gone. I looked around at the survivors. Grayli, still shaken, but now a little more like us. Johann, who had fought alongside me through hell. The captain, standing tall despite the fear that had once consumed her. "We did it," Johann muttered, though I knew his mind was far from finished. We'd survived, yes, but the cost had been high. I nodded. "We did. But we're not out of this yet." The next few hours were a blur. We salvaged what we could from the wrecked parts of the ship, tended to the wounded, and set course back to the nearest station. The beast was dead, but the scars it left on us would last much longer. As we drifted through the stars, the ship slowly healed. There was no joy in our victory, not yet. But there was peace, a peace I hadn't felt in a long time. And when the sun rose on the next day, and the first light broke through the windows of the bridge, I knew that we had done what so many before us had failed to do. We survived. And maybe, just maybe, we'd make sure no one else ever had to face the beast again.